Okay, it's really nice to see you all. It seems like it's been a long time, and I certainly have learned in the last few weeks that I really love teaching. It's definitely awesome, and the best part about it is seeing you guys. So this is really nice. It's like a nice little alternative to what the current reality, the craziness of everything is. I've seen a couple of seniors the last few days, and a lot of them are working right now. So I met one who's working like 60 hours a week, and he's working 60 hours a week because both of his parents got laid off and they don't have any income. So he's actually like the sole breadwinner for the entire house. So this is a really unusual situation. Some of you are like in a place where you just sleep until 11 a.m. and then you're like, what do I do for the rest of the day? You know who you are. And others of you are busy doing all sorts of stuff. So the key to this entire conversation that we're about to have regarding grading and how things are going to move forward is that I always want to make sure that I'm doing whatever I can to cushion things with compassion and grace and kindness in terms of how we proceed with your grade. Because none of you knew this was coming. I certainly didn't. It's a very unexpected situation, right? So we're going to try to make the best of it. We're going to try to be positive about things. And I'm going to share with you the things that I have control over and what I think we can do with that. And then also the things that are beyond my control that have been kind of handed down from on high, okay? So I'm going to try to answer questions that you have. If you need to leave early, you can do that. If you need to leave the chat early, that's fine. The whole thing gets recorded, so you can just access it later, okay? So I'm going to share my screen with you. During this time, I can't see the chat anymore, so if you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you and then mute yourself, if you will. And then if you have a question, now's a great time to ask a question before I share my screen. So if you wrote something in the chat that I didn't see, or you have a question about just how things are going, or a question for me, now's a good time before we share screens. Nope? Okay. Then we will move on. I hope that you are doing well, and I hope that you are able to find positive things that are happening regardless of crazy situation. I know that I have certainly enjoyed being home and having time with my family. That's been really cool. And I'm also now an elementary school teacher because I have 4 boys and 3 of them are in elementary school. So I have kind of quote unquote mastered the art of teaching 2nd grade, 4th grade, and kindergarten and preschool all at the same time. Wow. My days are not boring here. And I think I shared with you that I was going to get that bike. I got that bike. So now this has been like awesome. We've been biking all the time as a family. It's been really fun. On the sad side, I got into a pretty major accident yesterday with my car and totaled it. And that was sad. So very sad. The person that collided with, it was totally his fault and not mine. But my car got totaled, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to pay for it all because he has a suspended driver's license. So his insurance company claims that he shouldn't have been driving, so it's not their fault. They're not going to pay for it. So I have my bike that I bought, so my bike is my new car. Woohoo! There's that. Okay, let me share my screen with you, and we'll talk about how we're going to proceed. What you're about to see is this is all in OneNote. You can access OneNote. You know how, right? You have a OneNote app on your phone, or you can get it on your laptop and access OneNote there. In OneNote, this is in our class, and at the very, very bottom, underneath chapter 19, you'll see April options. I didn't know what else to call it. There's our current grade options page. This is the first page of our little digital conversation we're going to have together. So I hope you're all doing well. It's so exciting to see you all. There's some different situations that different people are in this class. And again, I want to try to like give you as many options as I can, while also trying to be kind and compassionate. And yeah. So there are some people in this class who are not enrolled in the UW course. So I tried to tell you before we all separated our ways that you may have the choice to just keep your grade where it is. And if you're not in a position where you can do any schoolwork, like that senior I talked to last week who's working 60 hours a week, I really don't want him to be encumbered to also do this crazy, difficult pre-calculus stuff on their own, right? It's really hard to do pre-calc when we're in class. It's really, really hard to do it without an in-person teacher helping you. So I totally understand that. If you're not in the UW course and you're happy with where your grade is and you really can't do any more work right now, please send me an email or a remind message and tell me that you want that that's kind of the position that you're in, okay? This will help me to know that, and then I will change my expectations from what I will be getting from you. If you are not in the UW course, but you're not happy with where your grade is right now, you can choose to improve your grade by finishing chapter 17 through 19, which is kind of what we're all working on right now. And then also taking that no risk final. I'm calling it no risk final because you have no risk when you take it. Your grade can only go up if you take the final. The UW final will be for chapters 1 through 20, but there won't be any questions from chapter 20 on the exam. I had to submit a special form that basically told Dr. Dave what was going to be on the final. And I said we would cover everything from chapters 1 through 20. Okay? So everything on the final is from chapters 1 through 20, but I will not be giving you any questions that relate to chapter 20. That's how I pulled that stunt. Okay. There are students who are in the UW course. If you are in the UW course, there's 28 of you that went for the UW credit. You have a couple of options. If you feel like you can still devote time to this course, then I would love for you to complete chapters 17 through 19 and take the no risk final. Remember that there are 2 grades in this class. There's a high school grade and there's a college grade. I am completely in charge of what happens with your high school grade. I am not completely in charge of what happens with your college grade. The University of Washington has said that come rain or shine, come snow or hail or whatever, nothing stops the mail. And also, nothing stops the University of Washington from continuing on with what they think you should learn. Okay? So if you went for the UW credit, you're kind of like your college grade, quote unquote, is kind of stuck where it is, right? You gotta get it done. If you feel like you can't do that and you signed up for the UW course, one of the options you have is to change your grade from a 4.0 scale to a pass-fail. So you have the option to do that by contacting the University of Washington. Now, pass-fail is just like it would be like in high school. You know, it shows up as a P on your transcript. And if there's a P on your transcript, that has implications. There's consequences to making that choice. So for example, it is my understanding that if you put a P on your transcript, your college transcript with the University of Washington, it makes it difficult to transfer that credit to some other schools. So some seniors, and you're going to the UW class, and if you are, then you should like contact and reach out to your college and ask them if they'll take a P for a grade. Okay? So if you have time and energy to devote to learning right now, this can be an awesome opportunity for you to shine. In fact, some of you have already finished chapter 17, 18, and a chunk of 19. Like, wow, shout out to that 3 or 4 people have done that. That's crazy. You did all that on your own? That's so impressive. So this can really be a time for some people to shine and stand out. So try to look on positives. Okay, are there any questions about this very interesting little flow chart that I'm sharing with you right now?
How do we find out what our grade is? Like, because we get in Skyward.
Yes, thank you for asking. It is my understanding that Skyward is currently available to students. Yeah, someone fact check me, but I have heard from the district office that today, Wednesday, Skyward gets opened back up to students. So, yep, speaking lies.
I tried 20 minutes ago and it was still closed.
Yeah,
Are you saying it's no-go? Okay.
Yeah, no, mine's still closed.
No grade.
Okay.
In Skyward at all.
So let me then give you another caveat. at some time during this week, your Skyward grade will be available to you again, and you can look at it and decide. Okay? If you want to know right now what your Skyward grade is, you can send me an email. If you want to know what your Skyward grade is right now, you can send me an email or a remind, and I can actually look it up and I'll just like send it to you. So if you need to know, just reach out to me. Any other questions? Okay, I thought that one of the questions you might ask is how important is the stuff from chapter 17 through 19 if I'm going on in mathematics? So the answer to that question is, well, of course, like the stuff we're supposed to be learning right now, which is trigonometry, is pretty important in classes like calculus, right? If you're going to take a class where there's a progression of courses that goes on. So I would encourage you, if at all possible, to like stick with it and see what you can accomplish. I am also in charge of creating your UW final this year, which is pretty unprecedented, and it gives me a lot of opportunity to make sure that I'm giving you review questions that relate to what will be on the final, since I know what's on the final. Does this make sense? So I can tell you like which topics will be on the final because I'm creating it. One of the questions is it possible to complete the chapters without reading the chapter and just using what we've already learned? The idea that I had in mind was that, yes, you can do something like that if you're a super genius, and some of you are. You can just use your Algebra 2 knowledge to figure out what's going on. But the best thing to do in terms of how to proceed would be to watch the videos that I made and put on Canvas for you, and watch those videos to like guide your progress for chapter 17 through 19. Also, my goal with part of this hour that we're together, at least weekly, is to answer questions you might have from chapter 17, and I may do one of the problems with you. Any other questions regarding grading before I talk about what will happen next in this class?
Yeah, if I had I had like a good second semester grade and then finished the chapters, could it change my first semester grade or would it only go to second semester?
So I'm going to answer that question in a moment, but basically I'll answer it right now too. If you decide to stick with it and you do well on the semester, on the final for semester 2, I will retroactively change your grade for semester 1 to match it. Okay, that's only if it brings your grade up, right? So let's say that you get a B on the final, but you had a B+ in semester 1, then I wouldn't change it. I would only change it if it improves your grades. Okay?
Okay.
Anyone else have a question?
So if I'm not sure exactly where my grade was at, but if we're at like a C or a B, like, do you think with the work we have, we're going to be able to get back up to an A?
That's a question. Yes, I think so for 2 reasons. One, I'm trying to be really targeted with our time together so that we get through chapter 19 faster, which gives us more time for a review. And 2, when I make the final, I'm going to weigh it heavier towards the stuff that we learned together in class. And there will not be as many questions that relate to chapter 17 through 19. Okay? And it's a no risk final also. So if the final doesn't improve your grade, then your grade just stays where it is.
How long do we have until, like is there a period of time that we have to decide whether or not we want our grade to be frozen or not? Or like, can we just email you whenever?
That's a good question. I'm going to go ahead and say that there isn't a time limit on that. So if you would like to decide that later, that will be fine. What I've basically done right now, and the reason I haven't updated anything in Skyward is 1, because I wasn't allowed to, and 2, because I'm going to record all your grades on a piece of paper that you have right now before I enter the stuff that you're submitting. So that way I have a snapshot of what your grade is now, and a snapshot later I can figure out where your grade's going. And obviously I'm going to pick the higher of the 2 if you don't give me any other option. Okay? Any other questions?
Is anything happening with the midterm? that we were going to take right before?
You are talking about MT3. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I posted midterm 3 actually on Canvas. And if you remember, I believe I gave you the opportunity to do it if you wanted to try to improve your grade. I think I had 2 or 3 people actually submit it. If you still want to, you can. It's basically a take-home test you can take and use whatever resources you want on. Okay? And if you're done and you submit it, I ask that you just like send me a reminder or an email saying that you submitted it, because that reminds me to look. Because it's in Canvas, I don't naturally look there. So just let me know if you want to pursue that option. It's another way for you to be able to raise your grade. Any other questions?
To turn in the chapters, do we have to go to assignments on Canvas and turn them in, or you have any due dates for them?
I didn't put due dates on them for you. I will kind of guide you as we talk here in the next 5 minutes about what I think the pacing should be for you to get it done. But I'm not going to be rigid and give due dates. I just feel like in this time, you should do what you can when you can. And there's going to be a great amount of trust between me and you that I'm sending your way here, because I'm asking you to be autonomous, right? I'm asking you to learn on your own, which is honestly really hard. It's one of my favorite things to do and my favorite ways to learn. I'm unique and weird. So I want it to fit with your schedule and your life. So the sooner you do it, obviously the better, but I'm not going to put a deadline on there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me talk a little bit more about what I expect the next little while to look like, and then you can ask more questions if you have them. My hope still is to talk a little bit about personal finance after we finish the UW final. So if you would like to, if you're interested in learning more about money, taxes, investing, savings, and how to spend money, then that's something that's going to be available to everybody if you want to do it. Okay? So if you're interested in that, be on the lookout. I will send out a remind message after we finish the UW final part. It'll probably be a big chunk of June that I'll offer these classes, and I'll try to offer it for pre-calculus and calculus students. So if you're interested in that, watch out, be on the lookout for that later. So here's what I kind of think the next few weeks will look like. We're going to review questions from the chapters 17, 18, and 19. I would highly encourage you to watch the videos before you try to do the problems on the chapter. I also would encourage you to look at the example problems in the textbook, because they correlate directly with the problems in chapter 17 through 19. We will also practice questions together to get ready for the final. Just like I did before with other midterms that we've taken, I will make review packets so that you have an idea of what is expected on the final. So this week, I'm hoping to answer some of your questions from chapter 17, if you have any. Next week, I'm hoping to spend some time talking about the unit circle. So I made a video about the unit circle a week or so ago that I posted on Canvas, but it is nice to have some practice with all of us together. So my thought is we'll just do like 15 or 20 of these problems together in an hour and kind of build on our knowledge of the unit circle a little bit. That's just next week. The week after that is to finish chapters 18 and 19 and answer any questions you have from that. And then starting on the 6th of May, we'll review for the final exam, which will probably be near the end of May sometime. Okay? I get to pick the topics, and I already talked about how the topics are flexible, quote unquote, and as a result, most of the topics that are going to be on the final exam will be questions that pertain to chapters, 12, I think is where we started. This will be mostly chapters 12 through chapter 16. Okay, there will be some questions from 17 to 19, but not many. The final is no risk for your high school grade. It doesn't hurt your grade. You will get to take your final at home, and we'll all take it at the same time. And then I'm going to ask that a parent or guardian or some other adult is going to sign like a proctor form to ensure that there's testing integrity there. Okay? This was the procedure that I was asked to follow by the University of Washington, so that's kind of what we're going to do. Any questions about the schedule? Any questions in the chat I can't see that I should know about?
What's the code for the reminds?
What is the code for the remind? Good question. Let me find that for you.
Cole just gave the remind code in the chat.
Oh, that is so great. Then I don't have to look it up. Awesome. Okay, any other questions before I open the floor up to chapter 17?
How do you think this will like affect our math classes in the next few years?
Okay, good question. That all depends on the longevity of this. Obviously, Jack, like I see a lot of, I'm a kind of an optimistic person. That's why I'm still a teacher, right? So one of the positives I see coming from this is that when there's like a snow day in the future, we don't have to stop learning. So since we're like working on all this virtual stuff right now and like Zoom is a thing, when it snows, we can still have class for like 30 minutes or something. And we don't have to like mess up our schedule anymore. Does that make sense? We don't have to like move like what we had to do last year. We had to like extend the school year by a number of days. That was annoying. So I see that as a plus. In terms of like your learning and how much you're going to miss out on learning, I'm not worried about it. What I find out about you guys is that I kind of have no expectations about what you learned in Algebra 2 for the most part, because this class is so different. And it's more about your problem solving and critical thinking skills, which I feel like you've grown in so much that I'm not really worried about the implications on calculus or anything post-calculus. I just want you to have success where you're at. That's kind of my perspective. Any other questions?
For like the level, like how hard the chapters are to like perceive, do you think that these chapters that we're learning individually are like gonna be like equal to or harder than what we've learned before?
It's a good question, and it might be more appropriate for other students to answer that question who've actually ventured into chapter 17. So should we ask if anyone else who has gone into chapter 17 can share with their thoughts? The question is how does chapter 17, in terms of its difficulty, relate to some of the previous chapters? Is that the question we're asking? Alyssa, did I get that right?
I think it's fine because it's circles and we already did circles and there's an easy function thing. So I thought 17 was fine. In my opinion, but
Thank you, Math God.
yeah.
Well, there's the divine utterance of the day. It's been said. 17's fine. Peter says he hasn't had any issues either. Look at that. That's 2. Okay, it's doable. There you go. Of course, feel free, like if you have questions on 17 while you're working through it, especially at the beginning of a chapter, it could be kind of rough to remember what's going on. Watch the video again or send me a remind. I do have like a whiteboard that I have with me at home and whiteboard markers so that I can like write math and send pictures to you if you need help. So please try to use that remind if you need individual support, okay? I know some of you are really awesome at that, and I want you to feel free to just send me a remind message if you need help. Okay, any other questions, or should I just pick a problem from 17 to do? Okay, it sounds like I'm picking a problem from 17 to do. Let's see if I can find it. So I will base my problem that I'm going to do with like the number of reminds I've gotten about certain questions, and then I'll kind of pick that one. Oh yeah, this one's good. That one's pretty similar to one I've seen. Let's do this. Okay, so what we're going to do is problem 17-2 together. Maybe, which you should be able to see now. There's 17-2. Oh, I bet you can't see it yet because I haven't shared my screen. Oof. How's that? There it is. Chapter 17. Okay, so this is 17-2. Oh, there's a little way I can pull the chat up. That's so cool. No, don't do 17-2. Okay, Caleb, I'm sorry. It's what happened. I need reminders on 17-1. Okay. Anyone else have any opinion about what we're going to be doing? 17-10. 17-4. Oh no, the votes are coming in. Either way, I'm getting overruled. Okay, I guess I'm not doing 17-2. What I'll pick is I'll pick 17-4 then. 17-4 is rather lengthy, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do like a part of it, and then hopefully give you a chance to have some success on the rest. So 17-4. I just have to snip it into my OneNote. And while I'm doing that, you can't see. So that goes away. Move this over here. There's 17-4. Okay, Marla is running clockwise around a circular track. And like Peyton said, this chapter is just a bunch of circles. She runs at a constant speed of 3 meters per second. She takes 46 seconds to complete a lap. Okay. Picture. Wow, that's the best circle of the year. And I'm not even at my board right now. Do the whole chapter. No, thank you. Okay, Marla is going clockwise around a circular track. Her speed is 3 meters per second. She takes 46 seconds to complete a lap. From her starting point, it takes 12 seconds to reach the northernmost point. Okay, so we have to follow this little situation where we have her position along the XY plane is modeled by sine and cosine. So the cosine value of the angle that she's at has to do with her x position on the xy axis. So in fact, there's this little formula, r cosine of omega of t plus theta, that determines what her x value is. And I think in the video I used theta sub 0. So that's her x value. Her y value has to do with r sine of omega of t plus theta sub 0. Okay, so your task really is kind of plug and play. You got to figure out what all these variables are. And if you look at the question, it gives you hints about different pieces of it. So you need to find the radius. I don't think they gave us the radius in this problem. So we need to find out what is r. We need to figure out what omega is. That's how quickly you're going around the circle, so it's got to have radians in it. And then we need to find theta sub 0, which is the angle that she travels through at the beginning from the standard position of the circle. So those are like the 3 things you're looking for. Once you have those 3 pieces of information, you can probably answer all of the questions that are being asked in 17-4. Okay? So the first thing we're going to look for is we're going to figure out what her omega of t is. And we know that she runs at a speed of 3 meters per second. So that's like her v. And I noticed that my questions here ask about seconds. So the units of seconds are good. The meters aren't good though, and what we want is radians. So guess what we're gonna need to figure out? We're gonna need to figure out how many meters there are in how many radians over here, because we want the meters to cancel out. So that means I'm gonna have to figure out how much the radius is. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, we know that it takes her 46 seconds to complete a lap. It's not a very good color, is it? Oh well. 46 seconds in 1 revolution. How can I use that? Anyone have any ideas? Oh, there's the chat button.
Well, you can change revolutions to radians, right?
Okay, great. We can change the revolution to radians. So in other words, I know that in 1 revolution, how many radians do we have? Well, 1 revolution means all the way around the circle. And all the way around the circle would be 2 pi radians. Now the radians can cancel out. And if I simplify this fraction, this means that it takes 23 seconds to go pi radians. Now that kind of looks like an omega, doesn't it? With one exception. It's not in radians per second, it's in seconds per radian. That's okay, we can still like use this fraction. What do we need to do though? We just flip it around, right? If it takes 23 seconds to go pi radians, that's the same thing as pi radians in 23 seconds. That's our omega right there. So this little guy is going to get plugged in right there and right there. Okay, now we found omega. We still need to find out what our theta sub 0 is and what our radius is. So how are we going to find our theta sub 0? Let's go there next. Well, let's look back at the question stem, and we realize it takes 46 seconds for her. 46 seconds to do 1 revolution. It takes her 12 seconds to get to the northernmost point. So the northernmost point's up here. So our northernmost point. That's all the way north. And she's running clockwise. So this is direct north. She's running clockwise, so that means she's going this way around the track. So we're going to kind of estimate where she is when she starts. Since it takes 46 seconds to go all the way around, and we know that it takes her 12 seconds to get to the northernmost point, can we figure out which quadrant she's in? Well, we know that like it would take 23 seconds if she started here to get to the top, because it takes 46 seconds all the way around. 23 seconds would be halfway around. And then 11.5 would be like a quarter of the way around. So since she has 12 seconds, that means that she must be here. Ish, right? That's her theta sub 0. So now we just need to figure out how many radians that is. Well, if I just look at it, I know that it's going to be more than pi radians, because pi is from the starting position to here. So it's got to be more than pi. But we want to know exactly what it is. So can I use this 12 and this 46 in some way to come up with how many radians theta sub 0 would be? Yes, I can. What I'm going to do is set up a proportion. So I'm going to put the time here, 46 seconds. And we're going to put the angle at the bottom. In 46 seconds, what angle does she travel through? She goes all the way around. Well, how many radians is that if she goes all the way around? That's 2 pi. So I want to know if it takes her 12 seconds to get to the top, we want to know how many radians that is. See how we can work that out? We can solve for x here by clearing the fractions out, right? So let's clear the fractions out. If I'm going to clear the fractions out, I'm going to multiply by the common denominator on the bottom, which is 2 pi x. On the left side, I'm going to get 46x. On the right side, I'm going to get 24 pi. So the angle I'm looking for is 24 pi over 46, which reduces to what? 12 pi over 23? Is that our theta sub 0 or not? Well, we said earlier that our theta sub 0, when we looked at the picture, should be a number that is greater than pi. Remember from the picture? It should be greater than pi. The number that we have here for x is a number that is less than pi. 12 over 23 is less than 1. So that can't be the right thing. So what did we just find? Let's look back up at the picture and ask ourselves the question, what did we just find? We found the angle that it takes from her starting position to travel along here and get to where? Only the northernmost part, right? Because in the 12 seconds that she travels, she only reaches the north. That's not theta sub 0. See, x is this pink thing. Theta sub 0 is from here all the way over. So what do we need to add to our x to get theta sub 0? Well, what's the piece that we're missing? We have this piece. We want this piece all the way over. So we have to add this extra little bit, this pi over 2, 1/4 of the entire circle. So to find theta sub 0, we're going to take the x that we had, which is 12 pi over 23. And we're going to add pi over 2. If you make a common denominator there, oh dear, 46, I guess. (47 pi over 46 is your theta sub 0. Now this makes sense because it's a little bit more than pi, and that's kind of what we were guessing our answer was going to be from looking at the picture earlier. This is all going a little too fast for you. The beauty of it is it's recorded, so you can like watch this again, pause it, work it out on your own, verify my work with yours. make sure I didn't mess up, which so far I'm feeling good. But I, like you, am rusty because I haven't done this for a while. We still need to find the radius. How do we figure out what the radius is? Do you have your formulas from chapter 16 that have like the omegas and the r's and stuff in it? Is there one that has an r in it that we could use that would be helpful? Anybody know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about these formulas like, actually, I'm trying to write down the one that isn't the right one. What? There's one with a theta in it. Like the angle is the theta that you want is the angle times the time, and the v equals the omega times the r, all that sort of stuff. Those sorts of formulas. You want one of those. Gabby asks, why can't we use the circumference? Yeah, you guys are right. Cool. V equals R omega. This is the one that we want down here, yeah. We can't use the circumference because we don't have it. But actually what we're about to do looks something very similar to kind of the circumference sort of formula. We're going to use this guy, V equals omega R, because we have V. This is our V. Right here. That's our V. And we have omega because that's this guy. We're going to use that, both plug that into this formula and then solve for our unknown, our radius. So V is 3 meters per second. Omega is pi radians per 23 seconds. And R is just the thing we don't know in radians. It's technically in radians. So let's get the R alone. So if we get the R alone, we're gonna have to divide by pi over 23. So that means we have 3 meters per second. And I'm gonna divide by this, which means multiply by the reciprocal. 23 seconds per pi radians. And now my seconds will cancel out. And on the right side of the equation, I'll have R in radians, right? So if I multiply this out, then 3 times 23, 69 over pi, and that's meters per radian, or 69 over pi meters. Yes, Peter, you can use your strategy as well. Peter said, why can't we get the circumference by using the 3 meters per second and the 46 seconds to complete a full lap? You could totally do that too. I like using this little formula when I have V and omega, but you can totally like logic your way into finding the radius as well. So should we sum it all up and write down the answer for A, I guess? We can do that. So I'm just going to plug all of the information that we have come up with into the formula that's provided up here with the R cosine and the R sine stuff. And I'm sure someone else has done this problem and they can tell us whether or not we're doing this right, because I don't have the answers in front of me. Our omega is, ooh, about to make a crucial mistake right here. Which direction are we going in? We are going clockwise, which means it's negative, right? So r omega is negative. So this is cosine of negative pi over 23 t plus r theta sub 0 that we came up with, which is 47 pi over 46. Okay, that's for the x value. Thanks, Braden. I appreciate it. This is just, I'm going to run out of space. I don't think that affects anything, though. Like, I think that's just not going to impact anything else we found. This is our x coordinate. And our y coordinate is 69 over pi times the sine. Okay, whatever. Negative pi over 23 t plus 47 pi over 46. I think whoever picked this problem managed to pick the hardest one in the chapter, so that's encouraging. Okay, and if that went too fast for you, I'm going to take this recording and post it on Canvas so you can check it out, slow it down, think about it on your own, okay? If nothing else, you have like one process of approaching the answer to this problem accessible to you. And if you want to do it on your own a different way, you totally can. But at least you'll know if you're right. This is in OneNote, so you can access it also anytime, anywhere, right? What would you do for B or C? You would just use your graphing calculator and plug in 10 for T or 901.3 for T, and you've got the answers to B and C. Any questions? Please ask. Hi, Blake. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pause this.